Today, we're stepping into the morgue. We're performing a hardware autopsy. We're going to dissect why so many promising electronic products are, well, dead on arrival. We'll be looking at the top failure points identified by hardware expert Teel to uncover the hidden killers that trip up even the smartest founders out there. And here, on the table, we have Exhibit A. It's a familiar sight, isn't it? A clever prototype, all wires and boards arranged just so. It works, it's innovative, and everyone who saw it said it was a brilliant idea. But now, it's just another piece of e-waste. So that leads us to the one crucial question we need to answer today. Why? What was the cause of death? What fatal error turned this really promising piece of technology into just another startup statistic? You know, when we look at a failed product, our first thought is almost always technical. It must be bad engineering, right? A bug in the code. But here's the thing. That's almost never the real story. The fatal wounds are rarely technical. They're actually inflicted by bad business decisions made way before the first unit ever even ships. So that brings us to phase 1 of our autopsy. We're looking for the fatal flaws baked into the product's very DNA. These are the kinds of mistakes made right at the moment of conception, the ones that make failure almost inevitable from the start. And here it is, the #1 killer of hardware products. This is the single most common, most deadly mistake a founder can possibly make. They build the entire thing before they have any real proof that anyone actually wants it. They just fall in love with their idea and assume everybody else will too. And this right here is the first great deception. On the left, you see what founders hear constantly. Compliments. That's so cool. Oh yeah, I totally buy one. It feels amazing. It feels like progress. But it is a trap. Because on the right is what a real business needs. Validation. And that isn't praise. It's commitment. It's somebody putting down a deposit, making a pre-order, actually opening their wallet. The core problem is just this simple. As Teel puts it, compliments are not validation, and enthusiasm is not commitment. Real validation only, and I mean only, happens when people take an action that costs them something. Their money, their time, maybe their reputation. Until that happens, you're just building a story inside your own head. And there are a couple of other poisons that infect products at this really early stage. First up, you've got the patent trap. Founders will spend thousands on legal fees to protect an idea before they've even confirmed anyone will pay for it. A patent for a product nobody wants is just a very expensive piece of paper. Then there's the audience gap. You have to build your community first. Launching a Kickstarter to an empty room is like trying to strike a match in a vacuum. There's just no fuel to start the fire. Okay, now for phase 2. Let's say a product actually survives conception. Well, it still faces some serious complications during development. This is where a promising idea meets the, let's say, harsh reality of the physical world. Let me tell you, getting a hardware product made is a massive uphill battle. Founders constantly, and I mean constantly, underestimate the sheer effort, the complexity, and the time it takes to go from a single working prototype to a product that can be reliably manufactured by the thousands. Early on, your goal is not perfection. The goal should be a minimum viable product that can actually be manufactured. But the trap that so many fall into is over-engineering. Let's add just one more cool feature, and then another one. Each little addition increases cost, risk, and delays, and it just pushes that finish line farther and farther away. So often, founders get their prototype working and they think, yes, we're 90% done. The reality is so much harsher. What they've really done is just reach the starting line for what many people call manufacturing hell. And this really highlights a key misunderstanding. A prototype isn't the finish line, it's the starting line. See, this reveals a really critical misunderstanding. There isn't just one development cycle. There are 2 distinct cycles. First, you develop the product itself, but then you have to develop the manufacturing process for that product. That's a second, equally complex project that demands just as much time and attention. The jump from a prototype to full production is just massive. I mean, on the one hand, you're testing a single board on your workbench. Easy enough. But on the other hand, you're dealing with the reality of scaled production, supplier differences, assembly challenges, quality control, shipping, and a whole sea of regulatory certifications like FCC, CE, and ROAS. It's a completely different ballgame. So let's just assume our product somehow survived development. It can still die right there on the launch pad. This is phase 3 of our autopsy, the go-to-market failure, where poor business decisions deliver the final killing blow. Having a working prototype creates this really dangerous sense of confidence. Founders see the price breaks they can get for ordering in bulk, and they make a premature leap. They commit to a huge production run before the product has been properly tested out in the real world. John Teel actually shares his own story of making this exact mistake. He jumped from very limited testing into a production run of 10,000 units. Just think about that number. 10,000. That represents a massive commitment. When you produce at that scale, you lock in every single mistake, from design flaws to bad packaging, into physical inventory that you are now stuck with. And here are two final blows that can kill a product right at the end. First, having no plan to actually fund that first manufacturing run. The bill comes due long before any revenue starts flowing in. And second, poor positioning. Your packaging might only have 3 seconds to grab a customer's attention on a shelf. If it doesn't instantly communicate what the product is and why it matters, that customer just walks away. So the autopsy is complete. Let's take a look at the final coroner's report and determine the official cause of death. The verdict is clear. This product didn't die from a technical bug. It died from a series of business failures. The founder built something without any real validation, failed to build an audience beforehand, and had no concrete plan for the realities of manufacturing and funding. They built a cool gadget, for sure, but they completely failed to build a business around it. Which leaves us with one last, kind of piercing question that every single aspiring hardware founder needs to ask themselves. Look at your project and be honest. Do you have a business, or do you just have a cool and very expensive hobby? Answering that question honestly is the most important first step. If you want to make sure your answer is business, not hobby, then subscribe to Lazy Reader. We're here to help you turn that prototype into actual profit.